All right, so coming in at number 96 with 51 points, we got Shane Douglas. He came in at number 87 on Andretti's list and number 65 on JC's list. So we'll let Andretti take it away on old Shane Douglas.
Boy, I can't say enough good stuff about Shane Douglas. He is one of my favorite guys of all time, and I'm really glad that somebody else voted for him too, and that we could get him in here on points, man. I mean, all-time favorite of mine, man. He's a big Pittsburgh guy. I'm from pretty close to Pittsburgh. We got to all stick together, man. But my memories of high school are somewhat tied to him because of going to all those ECW shows with a lot of my friends, and we would just travel around on weekends. And I remember that was the first car I ever had, and we would go to the Jaffa Mosque in Altoona, and we would go to the Ice Gardens in Rostraver, and we would just drive around and go to these ECW shows, man. And I've always really loved Shane Douglas so much. Like I said, man, big Pittsburgh guy, can't hate him on him for that. The dudes with attitudes were insane. They were coming out with skateboards and whatnot. It's an insane gimmick, but it was wonderful for the time, wonderful for what it was. Dean Douglas was a perfect gimmick for the time in the WWF. I kind of wish it would have went a little bit farther with that and with his WWF run. I mean, Douglas was a guy. He was in his own way, probably more often than not. A guy that had an unbelievable amount of talent. The talent was always there. People still to this day, I think, still tend to overlook it a little bit because he's kind of made enemies over the years. In his different travels around the wrestling globe. The Triple Threat was one of my favorite factions of all time, with Candido and with Bam Bam Bigelow. You guys know I'm a big Bam Bam Bigelow fan. I'm actually going as Bam Bam for Halloween, believe it or not. But I got a Shane Douglas shirt, a franchise shirt to this day, man. I wear it all the time. People always talk to me whenever I'm wearing that shirt. They give me a shout out, and we start talking about Douglas a little bit. I mean, look, man, the guy's a big founding father and even the face of a major industry changing promotion in ECW. He was a perfect fit at that time to give wrestling credibility to an upstart extreme promotion. And for him having such a chip on his shoulder with how things have ended at other promotions for him, and him having so much talent, just an unbelievable guy that did a perfect match at the perfect time with him in ECW, man. And going back and watching some of those matches was so much fun. Him coming out to Perfect Strangers by Deep Purple, one of my favorite entrance themes of all time, man. I can't say enough good stuff about Shane Douglas.
Yeah, and I had him on there as well. Shout out to him for also being a good education man. He was a teacher before he was a wrestler. But just kind of being one of those foundational guys, jack of all trades in ECW, being the guy to carry the water more often than not. And, working with everybody in that promotion and having the high profile stuff. That's kind of why I had him on there. I felt like he was an underrated. A lot of what Andretti said there, I echo a lot of those sentiments. And he's still working today a little bit. He, within the last, I don't know, maybe 6 months, he tagged with Brian Myers from Major Wrestling Figure Pod. So he's out there still working a little bit. He's hitting conventions and stuff. Go support him. And he also has one of those iconic scratchy voices that you hear it and it's like, that guy. And he's iconic. He had the action figures. He had that late WCW run. And so, yeah, just kind of all that rolled into a lot of what Andretti said.
I mean, he's a pretty decorated guy too. I mean, going through the list of accomplishments for Douglas, 4-time ECW world champ, two-time ECW world TV champ. He was the world heavyweight champ of the NWA, won the MLW championship at one point. And looking at some of the WCW stuff, like you said, I mean, the hardcore title, I don't even know if it's even worth mentioning that, but the WCW US heavyweight.
Whoa. Hold on. The WCW heavyweight or hardcore title is one of the most prestigious prizes in the game. Shout out to Hot Shots Wrestling. We are getting that sucker over, baby.
So he was
Randy Orton,
WCW US heavyweight champ one time. He was tag team champions with Steamboat. I think people kind of forget that because that was before he was after the Dudes with Attitudes era, whenever he was with Steamboat in a really good tag team. He won the tag titles with Buff Bagwell at 1.2, NWA World Tag Team Champs, stuff like that. But the thing too about Douglas, there's 3 matches that I thought were pretty good to go back and check out if you're interested in checking out some Douglas stuff. The Sabu Terry Funk 1994, the night the line was crossed, 60-minute draw. Okay, now look, I'm gonna tell you that now it's a draw. I don't want you to spend an hour watching a match if and then be disappointed. So I'm just gonna tell you that up front. Very weird match. A lot of people get involved, a lot of shenanigans. The match at Guilty is Charged 99 with Taz is awesome. They're fighting all over the place. When they were actually in the ring together, man, and there were no shenanigans going on, that match was just excellent. You get to see Taz in his prime. I mean, just phenomenal. And then believe it or not, he had a really good match with none other than Ric Flair, who's pretty good. So Slamboree 2000, Ric Flair. I don't remember at that point if the two of them had real heat or not. I know that Douglas felt very slighted by Flair years before that and had a big chip on his shoulder. I love the Shane Douglas gear here in this match, man, when he's wearing like the zigzag pattern on his trunks with the Pittsburgh colors. In classic WCW fashion, nothing can be a clear finish. And some asshole in a Sting mask has to run in and hit Flair. It's not even Sting. And I didn't even stick around to see who it was because I don't care. But the match at that point was really good. And I just was glad to see Douglas in another major promotion at that point, even though WCW wasn't what it should have been. It was still good to see him out there on TV. And the stuff he did with Torrie Wilson was excellent too around that time. So, big shout out to Shane Douglas, man. I'm glad to hear he's still working and still doing his thing.